Hi, I'm Sam, and today I'm going to teach you a couple of tips and tricks with the APC20. I use it in conjunction with Serato. It's nice because I have always used Ableton to make my mixtapes, and I've always DJ'd with Serato, and now thanks to the bridge I can use both at the same time. When I started doing that, however, I wanted to get a good control surface so I wasn't hunched over my laptop in the club, which I don't think looks very good. The APC20 is great. It's small, compact, it fits in my backpack, and it just allows me to access everything in my Ableton from here as opposed to squinting my eyes and looking on my laptop screen. So I'm going to show you a couple of custom mappings that I've adjusted just to suit more my style, and hopefully you will find them useful. Okay, so first off, you'll notice the red square there goes up and down, and that just corresponds on your screen. You can go left, right, and that's just so you can navigate, so you always know where you are on the grid on the APC. I don't want to focus too much on the really simple stuff because I'm sure if you have one, you've used it a little bit, you understand it's pretty plug and play, ready to go. I do want to show you a couple of the ways the way that I've set it up. So first you've got your sends, so you just hit Shift, Send A. Send A, I just have a really simple, you'll see Send A moving up and down there. On channel 1, Send A, first off, I just have a really simple ping pong delay. Okay, and then on Send B, I just have a really a neat little sort of echoey effect, so let's listen to that. Pretty simple. So that's your sends. They're really easy to use. They're pre-mapped, so you can add sort of whatever you want on there. Now to get into some of my special mapping, one of the things I've done is I've made the Q knob into actually my tempo knob. So normally this would adjust this, so it comes pre-mapped to adjust your click, the sound of your click track, so your solo. Obviously when you're playing live, DJing, you wouldn't want people to hear that, so I don't use that. So I'm just going to turn that down and off there. And then what I've done is I've MIDI mapped the tempo to this pot here. So you'll see that's the corresponding note control with the song tempo. Just this allows me to, when I'm playing in the club, adjust the tempo accordingly as I'm going up or down, without having to kind of fiddle with my trackpad and my laptop. It's something that I use a lot. I jump around tempos a lot, and I find it useful. You may want to do it for something else, maybe a sweeping filter or something like that. It's totally up to you. From there, what I'd like to show you is the user banks. So I have user bank 1 set up with on my audio channel 1. Actually, I have it on the same effects rack on all of my audio channels. So what I have here is an EQ3. That's just got my my low, my mid, and my high. And what I've done here is just I've assigned each of these parameters to the fader here. I like to have my EQs for every channel on a fader or a pot. This allows me to have that. I keep, and this is just a preference, I keep all of my user bank parameters for my effects over on the right side on these faders. And I keep most of my tracks when I'm playing on the left side, just because I don't want to get too confused. I like to keep those separate. That way I know if I shift and I'm in volume pan, send A, send B, send C, those will always be on each channel for where I'm sending those. But on the right side, the user pots, those are specially mapped. I like to keep those faders separate, so I don't put any audio tracks up there. And that's just because, you know, I like to keep my brain organized when I'm drinking and playing in a club. So that being said, I have this EQ here on every single channel. So you'll have to go through, once you've dropped the EQ into the channel you want it, you're going to have to go through and do that to every single channel. Just make sure that it's mapped for each channel, because it won't just map them every single time for each channel. So do that. The other thing I have on here for user 2 is I've created an effects rack, and I would highly suggest having an effects rack, just because you can set up a whole bunch of different ones and save them, and then when you go to DJ, you already know that you've programmed them all to the macros. So when you have an effects rack, you can drop different effects into the rack and then assign them to different macro controls there. And the nice thing about that is that you can assign multiple parameters to one macro. So in this case, I have the beat repeat, and it is controlling my grid, so from a quarter note and off to a 30-second note. And it's also controlling, if you see ever so slightly over here in the corner, it's adjusting the volume. With beat repeat, it's just going to latch on to whatever, when you turn it on, whatever slice of audio when you've turned it on that it grabs. And so if it grabs a really loud kick drum or something like that and it starts repeating it, it can get really loud. So I like to adjust that to go down just a little bit the more the heavier the repeat is, so it doesn't sound too crazy. So we can show you what that sounds like there. Now, the other thing I have programmed under user 2, I haven't done too much in here, just keeping it simple, is just a filter sweep. The filter sweep I have on assigned to macro 2. So the way that you do that, you're just going to click whatever your parameter it is, and you can see it's mapped here right now, but I could just remap it. So click that, click map. Now that's the filter sweep, so when I adjust that, that's going to go up and down. And then from there, I can map that in MIDI map mode to my APC, so that this filter sweep is going to be on fader 7. So up and down, you can see it's already mapped there for fader 7. So I'll just get out of MIDI map mode, and I'm just going to hit play and show you that there. You can do some fun things there with that. So that's how I've just set those up. So then what I've done is I've created this effects rack, and I've saved it. So when I go into every time I open it up, I can go down here and I'll see it's beat, repeat, and filter sweep. I can drag that onto each individual audio track, and then same thing, you'll have to MIDI map those 2 macro pots for each track to be on your faders here, and then once that's set up, you're good to go. I find it to be really easy to keep those separate. You don't have to do it that way. There's lots of different ways you can do it. I just like to have it done that way. The other thing I want to show you is the note mode. So this is great. It allows you to use your APC like an MPC. I've created just some little sampling pads out of a drum rack. So you can go into my drum rack here, and I've just created this, so it's it allows you to, you can have tons in there. There's lots of grid space to do that. You can just navigate up and down here. I like to, that's just the style that I play. You can put different club shout outs on there, different things like that. You could do some live chopping. That's really fun. So you can save a bunch of different sample racks, and then just have those ready to play when you go into no mode. And you'll see those are all your tracks here, so you can be playing, go to no mode, and just play from there. So the other thing I want to show you is when you're you can use these pads kind of to play more musically, as opposed to just having them trigger in a 1 bar, in a 1 beat one bar, one beat kind of pattern. You can go from global quantization to 1/16th note. And this allows you to play a track almost kind of musically with the pads. So I've just got the same track here, and I have different start times for different parts of the track. So so that way you can kind of play around with it. Say you have you're mixing one track with another one. You can kind of play around with that. It's just, I mean, that's just something I've thrown together on the fly, but you can see how that can be fun to play, sort of chop in different parts of different songs and do live mashups and things like that in the club. Well, hopefully you found this useful. Just as a couple tips and tricks. I'm learning always every day, and this is a really great tool. I use it a lot, and I'm excited about it. I love using it at my shows, and I hope you will too. Thanks a lot.